Siem, Queet Siem, Queet Titas, I'd step Siem Heels, none of white squale. Great Creator, we thank you for coming together. We thank the wisdom of the elders and our teachers. We give gratitude for those who have gone before us and learned the ways. We give gratitude for the wisdom that we can share with each other. We say, Haj Kasiyam. Oh, he, oh, he, oh, hey. Yo, he, ho.
Hey everybody, welcome Vancouver Island to our third episode of Wise Folks. You know, health and wellness is something that we just don't talk enough about. What really happens for us is we think we have to go to an exercise class. You remember YMCA. Well, that might have been great in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Well, it wasn't the 60s, but the 80s anyway. But it isn't really the way health and wellness works. Health and wellness is all about taking care of the four components that are so important to our health. Our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health, and our relationship health. It's really, really important that we take the time to do a little bit of an inventory for all of those things to make sure that we're feeling our very best all of the time. On today's show, you're going to have all kinds of tips about how you can better take care of you. And of course, they're from the wise folks in our neighborhood. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the show. I'll see you in a bit.
Welcome to Wise Folks. That was a great intro by Kathy about fitness and staying well. I bet you're wondering what you should be doing as a senior to stay active, and it's great that we have a fitness professional here with us today. Andrea LeClaire is here. Welcome, Andrea. I'm Teresa, Ostman, and we're going to have a conversation about senior fitness and the things that we can do to stay fit once we reach that magic age of 65 or older. So Andrea, welcome. How old is too old for fitness?
Well, Teresa, I had somebody in one of my classes that was actually 100.
Wow.
So you're never too old.
Never too old to get fit. So what does fitness look like? I mean, Kathy was saying YMCA. That's what we did 30 years ago, maybe. What kind of things can we be doing now to stay fit and stay active?
Well, it's funny about Kathy mentioning that YMCA, because at one time Jane Fonda was all the rage, and she used to say, "No pain, no gain." That was her motto. Now it's do not feel pain. If anything hurts, stop. People can do some adjustments. They might be just doing something incorrectly, but never feel pain. So that's the difference between then and now. And it's all about them.
Yeah, that's really great advice. So Andrea, you do teach some fitness classes.
Yes.
So there is definitely programs that seniors can attend. What kind of programs do you teach, and what kind of availability is there for programs out in our communities?
Well, the city, wherever you're living on the island, all the different cities provide lots of programs for seniors. And in fact, they have a 60-plus program where they offer all kinds of fitness programs, yoga, Tai Chi, and the things that I do is chair fitness, and I teach. My focus is mobility and balance right now, and chair fitness.
Yeah. Well, the mobility and the balance, the stability is just really important, especially for seniors once they get to a certain age.
Very important, because what I find is that, and in fact statistics show that if seniors have a fear of falling, they're going to fall more easily than if they don't. So if I can teach them how to get away from that fear of falling, I've done something good for that person.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what you think about is what happens. We hear that expression in a lot of things. So how about weight training? How important is weight training?
It's very important. And when we do the chair fitness, in fact, even when I'm doing the balance and mobility, we always do weights. So we work with weights. So we do all the muscle groups, and we particularly think about legs as well, squats, so body weight as well as weights. So that, like, we use dumbbells, and we also use the bands. Bands are the stretchy things, you know, and they have a really good purpose as well. So we do bands as well as the dumbbells, and then we do a lot of body weight things as well.
Like, I know for me and for a lot of seniors, when they hear the word weights, it's scary. It's like, I don't want to build big muscles. I don't want to be muscle bound. What do you say when they're scared?
It's just not going to happen. You see young women with very big muscular women, and that's because they train constantly, and a lot of them are actually using steroids as well. Oh, no. So the regular person, and especially the senior, are not going to ever build big muscle. But you do want to maintain your muscle, and that's a very important thing to do. Otherwise, you're not going to be functioning as well as you would if your muscles, they're just going to atrophy and get smaller. So you want to keep them maintained.
Say someone hasn't been active for a long time. How easy is it to get involved, to start being active?
Well, it's easy these days because there's so many programs offered. Like, I teach at seniors' homes as well, and I find that the ones that come to class, they really enjoy it because there's a lot of camaraderie going on, and people help one another. So I think if people can get into a fitness program, it's better than doing it on your own. And also, you're able to learn how to do things correctly. It's so easy to get injured if you don't know what you're doing. So having a fitness professional help you, and then you know what you're doing, and they can correct you if things don't look good, you know, so to avoid injury.
That's a really, really good point. We'll be back and talk more about seniors fitness.
We're not trying to make boxers here, but it's a way to get rid of that frustration, and you can leave it on the floor and go home feeling better.
There we go.
With each punch, these men and women in this boxing class at Fluid Fitness Studio in Parksville are getting more than a challenging workout. They're fighting back against the symptoms of Parkinson's disease at Vancouver Island's first Rocksteady boxing certified gym.
All the studies, if you look, they all point towards the benefits of exercise, specifically for people with Parkinson's disease. They find that it helps to improve their daily lives. It helps to slow down the symptoms for lots of folks, makes them feel better. And they don't know what it is specifically about the boxing, but you can see how hard these people are working.
Parkinson's disease is a degenerative movement disorder which can cause deterioration of motor skills, balance, speech, and sensory function. Rocksteady Boxing, a non-profit organization established in the United States, gives people with Parkinson's disease hope by improving their quality of life through a non-contact boxing-based fitness program. Doug and his friend Don Reed, who is diagnosed with PD, traveled to Indianapolis and successfully completed the training to offer the program here. And in November of 2016, Rocksteady Boxing Oceanside opened its doors.
It's all non-sparring, mind you. It's hitting heavy bags and speed bags, but something's happening. Their balance is improving, strength is improving. Having the Rocksteady Boxing, it gives you an outlet for the frustration and the anger that a lot of people feel when you have a chronic illness. It gives you a way to get rid of some of the energy.
I'm angry with the Parkinson's, so for me it's a good way to work out the way I feel personally about it, and to try and improve and see what difference it really does make, so that it's a good study, that people see that it improved. I've never been too immobilized with my Parkinson's, but I find what happens is that this gives me information on what to do when I feel my body's collapsing, that my bone structure no longer wishes to hold my muscles, that my muscles just want to drop down. So I find coming to class gives me skills to manage between classes as well.
Trouble is, we know so little. We're still in the dark ages. We know what happens when you have Parkinson's disease, how it affects your brain. We do not know why or how it starts. So this is one way, instead of sitting at home frustrated and angry, you come here and you have a blast, you meet great people, you have a great workout. For me, this time flies by, and it's one of the most exciting and enjoyable things I've ever done in my 12 years of being a fitness instructor.
Since January, William Wood has been participating in the Rocksteady boxing program and has noticed a significant difference in his energy and quality of life in just a short time.
I feel actually quite good after class. I feel more energy. I actually take less medication now because I'm doing this boxing program.
With 15 affiliate studios in Canada, including 3 now on Vancouver Island, Rocksteady Boxing is a place where inside and outside the ring, participants form friendships with others who truly understand what it is like to live with Parkinson's disease.
I don't feel alone. I find that there's other people like me in the community, so it's nice to get together with them to talk about it.
I want people to see what they're capable of, and not what's taken away, but what they're still able to do. And that's the most important thing, because I want the grandkids of people with Parkinson's to watch the videos and watch them, what they're doing, and I want their mouths to drop open. I've been moved to tears several times just watching what goes on in here. It's just amazing.
Rocksteady Boxing Oceanside provides more than just a challenging workout. Through hope and support, it improves the lives of those living with Parkinson's. To learn more about the program, visit oceansidepd.com.
Every day. 1, 2, 3, Rocksteady! 1, 2, 3, Rocksteady!
Well, that was great. It's really nice to know that we can do all kinds of different activities. Once we reach a certain age, we just don't have to stop. We just find new and wonderful things to do. I'm back with Andrea. Thanks, Andrea. After we wrapped up the other segment, we were talking about the social aspect of fitness, and that's really part of the well-being, overall well-being, and how important it is.
It's very important, Teresa. I find that when people come to class, we often have lots of laughs. Somebody might be doing something not quite right and she's laughing at herself. And it just brings everybody together, so they actually come and look forward to coming. And if people can just break out of their little area of not communicating with people, if they can just break out and just come, I find that once people come, they just keep coming back.
It's wonderful that they help each other too, and
Yes.
there's no judgment. It's just come and do, rather than sit on the sidelines and wish you were doing.
Absolutely.
So it is great that people do come to programs. Some people don't want to do programs. My dad is someone who doesn't want to do programs, and he does more things at home. Do you have any recommendations for activities that a person who doesn't want to go to a program could do at home?
Yeah, and if people can get out and walk, that would be really good. And I often tell people, because I work with a lot of balance and mobility, if people can just sit in a chair and start tapping their feet, because that's going to strengthen their ankles and their lower legs, the shin and the calves, just tapping your feet and moving about a little bit. Some people are wheelchair bound that come to my class. Well, that's really difficult for them to do anything on their own. So I do recommend coming to classes, but if they really don't, get out and walk.
And now with walking, with the poles, walking poles, now that people who aren't seniors and who don't have balance issues are using them, that really says, okay, anybody can use those walking poles and use more energy, right?
Yes, and I think they are wonderful because, especially for seniors, I mean, the younger people don't necessarily need them, like you say, for balance and mobility, but the seniors, it's really helpful for them to stay up, and if it gives them more confidence. to walk.
And especially if it's icy. At the island, we don't have that much ice and snow, but it sure helps for stability.
It does, and so we all have to be careful about falling. And if a senior falls, you know, they can be in big trouble. They can break a hip so easily, and then things are not looking good for them. So if they can do anything to help them prevent falling, that's wonderful.
How about the things that they might be able to do at home? Are there videos that are available that you can buy or rent?
There's lots of videos. I can't recommend any in particular, but you know, if they look at the video stores or probably online, like there's all kinds of videos. It's just sometimes you don't know what's reputable and what isn't. Yeah. When they come to a program, you want to make sure that the person that's training you is a fitness professional, and that's easy to look at because through BC there's a registry, and they can look on the registry to find out if a person's certified or not. So otherwise you don't want to go to that person if they're not
that
registered.
would be really important.
Right.
Yeah, that would be really important. My father, he's 88.
Yes.
And he does Tai Chi with a video, but he actually had met the instructor when they lived in Hawaii. So that's a really good way. And there's certainly different videos. And as Andrea said, you know, let's make sure that you do the research before you start any program. And you would definitely recommend that they start with a fitness program and get to know how to do the different activities before you really start doing them on your own.
Yes, because I find that often people have never exercised that come to classes, and so anything that they can learn is really good. And they'll learn how to do things correctly, because it really can be easy to get injured if you don't know what you're doing. And a professional person will check on people and make sure everybody's doing things so that they won't get injured. That's the bottom line, just to stay safe.
That's wonderful advice, Andrea. Thank you very much for being here today and teaching us about seniors fitness and what kind of activities we can all continue to do to stay fit and healthy. And thank you for joining us. We've had a great conversation here and learned a lot about health and wellness. And please do take some of this to heart and stay active and be social.
Well, thank you so much, Teresa. It was great to have such an inspirational guest. And not only that, to see what we can do with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's these days is phenomenal. Coming up next on the show, we're very excited to have Shelley Iberg talk with Jane Vinet about social isolation. You see, physical health, mental health, spiritual health all work together in one arena. So let's make sure that we're making our mental health work as well as our physical health.
Hi, my name is Shelley Iberg. I'm so glad to spend some time with you. I'm here today to talk a little bit about social isolation. In my profession, I've had a lot of experience seeing the impact that social isolation has on people. I see it every day. I see it in terms of people's health, their emotions, their ability to get out of the house. It has a huge impact for people. And one of the things that I think we need to talk about is what social isolation looks like. If we understand it a little bit more, then hopefully we can start to look at the indicators for ourselves and be able to be proactive and make sure that we're able to have the life that we want, because we can live our preferred future. We just have to take a look and be aware what's happening now and what we can do to move forward. So I'd like to introduce Jane Vinet. She's with Engage, Social Connect, at Nanaimo Family Life, and she's going to introduce us to a little bit more about what social isolation is.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi.
So social isolation of older adults really has more to do with their condition in life, not being alone. Like, people sometimes will think that being alone is socially isolated. Even loneliness I mean, it can lead to social isolation, but it doesn't necessarily equate with social isolation. Social isolation is defined as not having enough quality connections in our life. So when you think about it, as we begin to age, you alluded it to a little bit in your intro, we start finding that the changes, maybe it's our children move away. As we age, maybe we retire, so we're no longer connected to a profession. Or maybe we start to have some deterioration in our physical health or our mental health. All of these things are risk factors that lead to social isolation.
Okay. So for you, when you're working with somebody who you see is experiencing some of that social isolation, what are some of the things that you might see is not happening in their life?
Well, very often what we'll see is, first of all, I think it happens, for most people it happens gradually, though I always say we're all one illness away from becoming socially isolated. A stroke, a medical condition obviously can really change our life in a heartbeat. Losing a driver's license, for example, can have a huge impact. But the kind of changes that we see people, it can be very gradual. All of a sudden you're going, my hip hurts, I'm not going to go to the gym anymore. I'm just going to stay home. I can bank online now. I can maybe order my groceries online, so I'm not going to go out. And then once we become comfortable with that, we start to become uncomfortable with going out and connecting with people.
That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I've seen that where people's world becomes smaller and smaller, a little bit more at a time, and suddenly just stepping out and doing something that they used to be familiar with, suddenly you get those feelings like, oh, how do I do this again?
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
You look at maybe if you've had your partner for many, many years. So for older adults, the loss of a partner or a really close friend, someone you're so conditioned to being able to pick up the phone, you speak to them, but all of a sudden, here I am, I'm alone, I'm 75, I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
How am I going to make friends?
Yes. I think it makes a big difference when people can see somebody else and they know who you are, and just really to be able to connect with you. And when you're losing that circle, suddenly people that say, oh, you used to do this a lot, and now you're not doing it, they're not there to pull you out.
Also, another point would be that when we, as we age, as I said, there's certain factors, like, for example, maybe all of a sudden your hearing has deteriorated or your eyesight. So maybe some of the activities and the people you used to hang around with, so let's say, for example, you were going to the local community center and now you go in there and all of a sudden it's too loud for you and you're not comfortable. Like, these things, we don't think of them as serious medical conditions. Oh, get a hearing aid, everything will be fine. For a lot of people, it's not that simple, and their world just continues to shrink. So we have to find ways to really focus in on the vulnerable and marginalized older adults in our community and create a real awareness that social isolation exists.
Thank you so much, Jane. It is hard to see somebody, their world getting smaller, and I suspect that when we come back and talk to you after the break, we're going to see how people can start to re-liberate themselves and get back into things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a chance to see a little bit about what Dan and Dan are going to be up to. We never know what those two are up to.
bear. I hear a bear. Oh, that's kind of cool. I think I'm communicating with the bear. This is good.
Excuse me. Oh my goodness.
What are you doing here?
I am so happy to see you. I've been calling out. Have you heard me?
You scared me. I heard something. I just wasn't sure that was you. And why? Why were you doing that?
Well, you know, I've been, I don't know if you heard me, but I've been calling out some animal calls, and that's because I've been feeling a little lonely, and it's good to voice it.
True. I was actually enjoying my alone time. I was enjoying, I don't know, having fun in the woods, going out on the beach, making all these wonderful sounds. I was just having so much enjoyable alone time, and you showed up.
And you know, and I think that's important, and I love having alone time, but sometimes I was feeling lonely, and I needed to have some connection to people. So I did some calling today.
Well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Well, you know what? I'm going to forgo my alone time for you.
Well,
I will share myself with you.
Well, thank you very much.
Because you are feeling alone today. Even though I wasn't, and this is my beach, and you're on it.
And sometimes you need to have a little of both. And today...
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree. So you know what? Let's go do something fun. Let's grab some food. Let's just go and have some togetherness time.
Okay, you know what? I know a great place just down the road.
Let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
My name's Shelley Iberg. I have really enjoyed just being so inspired by watching people, seniors especially, who are doing something new. It takes a lot of courage. I think it takes a lot of awareness. People have to really accept where they're at, own it, before they can start to make changes. So wherever you're at, it's okay, because we have to start somewhere. And I have to tell you, Dan and Dan, thank you very much. I will not be walking in the woods and listening to any sounds at all in the same way. But I think that was great. Thank you for that. So Jane, we were talking about social isolation. And one of the things that we were thinking would be a nice way to spend some time talking about what are some of the tools, what are some of the things that people can do when they realize, oh, wait a minute, what direction am I heading? I've heard a comment once that if you look ahead, and you know when the Titanic crashed, if they would have looked way up ahead, they would have seen an iceberg. And if they would have moved half a degree, it wouldn't have taken much, but they would have avoided a catastrophe. And I think about that when I think about the people that I work with sometimes. Where are we now? It's okay. And how do we move half a degree? And I'm wondering what ideas you have around that.
Well, so glad you asked. The Seniors Connect program is a program that's running in 9 cities across Canada. And what the government is trying to do, because social isolation has become such a problem and it's becoming such a health risk for older adults, there are all these projects that are happening across the country, across Vancouver Island, and what everyone's doing is coming up with new ways to combat social isolation. So here in Nanaimo, the Engage with Seniors Connect program, we've done a lot of things. For starters, we created a senior center where we run cooking classes maybe for socially isolated men, people maybe who haven't had the experience of cooking. We've got exercise. It's so important for older adults to stay physically healthy. It keeps us mentally healthy. Some of the other things is even just making people aware that social isolation exists, because most people don't identify as being socially isolated. They just think, oh, I've grown older, I'm by myself, this is what happens to us. But it's not. Social isolation is more of a medical condition. It's not a natural occurrence. We shouldn't just become socially isolated as we age.
Well, it's amazing just to hear all of the things that are happening. How do those ideas come about? How are they generated in terms of linking people? Where do those things come from?
Well, one of the things that we are fortunate enough to have here in Nanaimo is we have something called the Nanaimo Seniors Task Force, and also an Engage Seniors Advisory Committee. So what we're doing is we're having people who, through their own life experiences, are stepping forward and saying, okay, this is the knowns, this is what we know is happening. When you talked about the iceberg and the Titanic, the government has known for a long time that we are an aging population, and we're going to have probably the largest number of seniors in our history. So we knew this was coming, so we're trying to prepare, we're trying to encourage people to use the new technology we have out there, whether it's teaching people to become, for example, a lot of older adults may not use Facebook. Now I know there's different opinions about Facebook out there. It can be isolating, but if you've never used it before and maybe you grew up writing letters, well, now you can stay in touch with your family who moved across the country. Yeah. We can teach people how to use technology. We can bring people together through programs like the Engage with Seniors Connect program.
It sounds like it's about really building healthy community.
Has everything to do with having a healthy community, because our world has evolved. You know, if we were living in Europe 100 years ago, we all probably would have grown old with our families. Here in North America, we don't do that. So we're having to sort of make a major shift in our mindset. You know, how are we going to do this? What is the new normal when 2/3 of your population is over the age of 65? Like, how are we going to deal with that?
Thank you so much, Jane, for coming on the show. It's a really, you know, social isolation, it's not an easy thing for people to experience, but it is so powerful to be able to figure out, where am I at, what are my options, and how do I move half a degree? So I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Shelley.
Yeah. So thank you very much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing more of everybody. It's been a great chance to learn, and I hope that everybody thinks a little bit more about, how are you connecting? How are you engaging? Because the more we can really think about that and be present with it and accept it, we can take steps to make things better. We can have a preferred future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Shelley, and Dan, and everyone who participated in Wise Folks tonight. You know, social isolation is a funny thing. Sometimes, just because we're alone doesn't mean that we're lonely or that we're socially isolated. My mom, who passed away in 2002, she was one of those people who was much more introverted than extroverted. I myself can go out and meet people all of the time. And even at that, sometimes I shake a little on the inside. So it's not necessarily about going out there and suddenly making a whole bunch of friends. What it's about is recognizing the difference between being on your own, being alone, being lonely, and being socially isolated. And for wherever you are on that spectrum of feeling, It's a really good idea to try to connect wherever you can.
I walked with the world for a many a mile. Life was fun for a little while. As I got older, how could I smile? How could I be happy for long? I met a wise folk the other day, told me to live in a happy way. Now I'm walking in the good old way, and I'm greeting life with a song. Something is missing in my heart today. I had to stop and rest a while. Not really sure what I need. How was I to find what's wrong? I met a wise folk the other day, told me to live in a happy way. Now I'm walking in the good old way, and I'm greeting life with a song. I'm greeting life with a song.